Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another Sunday night live stream right here on Texas Football. Oh, yes, the first one after the first kickoff from Texas football to officially begin the 2024 season. A big win for Texas, a resounding win, a shutout, first shutout in the season opener since 2004. So we're here to talk about it. We'll talk about that, obviously, on the defensive side. We'll talk about offense, but time to start looking ahead a little bit, too, so we can start sneak peeking, if you will, to the Michigan Wolverines. I actually got the game, the Michigan-Fresno State game, DVR. Probably going to go watch it after this. Haven't even watched it yet. I'll probably go dive into it after this. I'm still doing my third rewatch of the Texas-Colorado State game. Now I'm watching the lines of scrimmage, so I'll get to that. But thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. Really excited about the season. I know you guys are too. So all of your questions or comments, we'll address them all. But first, let me introduce the panel here. Of course, it is the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Burton, lifetime Longhorn, joining us. And, of course, the young prodigy, the phenom, CJ Vogel, also a lifetime Longhorn, joining us. And we appreciate him coming on. All you guys out there, remember how it goes. Super chats, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time, no matter what we're talking about. If you want to talk about something, hey, you throw it out there in super chat and we'll address it. But, of course, we're talking Texas football. A lot of meat on that bone. Either you're at Texas, Colorado State, or talking about the Michigan game coming up. And now the line has moved, guys. Even the Vegas wise guys have been so impressed by Texas football's introductory performance versus the Colorado State Rams that they decided, CJ, to move the line. I know you pay particularly close attention to that because sometimes you dabble in that as well. What are your thoughts about Vegas even changing their minds about the Longhorns and the Michigan Wolverine matchup after watching their opening week performance?
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? I mean, Michigan's defense looked good. You know, they had a pick six from Will Johnson, the best cornerback in the country, but that running game didn't look good, and that quarterback game looked even worse. So offensively, I know you're trying to keep things bland when you don't have a marquee opponent, but against Fresno State, I think you're expecting more than 23 points, right? Especially for a team as dominant as Michigan was in 2023. The trenches just didn't indicate that to be the case in 2024 against a much inferior opponent. Again, this is where you start to see kind of the inexperience in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball start to pay off, right? You know, and Michigan, I think, is going to be tested much more so than what Texas will be tested on either side of the ball with their offensive line next week against Texas, in the sense that, hey, you know, you can be old, but if you haven't seen the game, if you haven't had that game speed and experience, it's a little bit of a different animal. And I think they got a little bit of a taste of that week one against Fresno State. I think the line makes sense. That quarterback play is not inspiring. If Texas gets up early, it's going to have to take several turnovers in my eyes for Michigan to come back and win that game.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Bobby, what are your thoughts? Looks like nationally, people are starting to feel the Longhorns after watching them versus Colorado State. You got to consider the opponent, but them moving that line to almost a touchdown in Texas's favor, that's a pretty big compliment, even for a team that lost a lot.
It started this summer at 3.5, right? Didn't it break at 3.5, CJ and Rod? Now it's up to 6.5.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when Michigan starts a walk-on quarterback. I mean, and they did it not because they had to, but because they thought he was better than the other guy. And that walk-on quarterback, unless he just changes himself overnight, I mean, they're going to try to play keep away from Texas. There's no doubt in my mind. They're going to try to make this score. I mean, are they going to try to make it 13-10 or 10-7? I mean, they're going to try to play Iowa instead of Texas. That's how I feel about this Michigan game. Now, I have not, to your point, Rod, I've taped Michigan, Fresno State. I have not watched the game yet. We were so busy with the Longhorns yesterday. I, too, you and I did the second watch with Rod Babers earlier today. Y'all didn't get a chance to watch that. Rod, you were just terrific on that. I think that's going to be a mainstay feature here on Texas football. But I went back this afternoon, and that was my job after listening to you, is I went back and rewatched Texas and some of the strengths I saw the first time and kind of looked a little bit at different things this afternoon. And, you know, Texas, there are parts of Texas that match up really, really well with Michigan.
Yep.
Quick passing game probably can get them a little RPO stuff. But there are things that Texas doesn't necessarily match up well with. You know, Michigan can move or if they can run the ball. They didn't run it apparently very well against Fresno State, but if they can, Texas gave up some, as Sark said, they leaked a little bit late in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things there back and forth that make you go home. But look, I'm ready for this week as well, Rod and CJ. It's a big week ahead for Texas football, because not unlike a year ago at the same exact time, Texas went to Tuscaloosa, right?
Yep.
Same thing. And I tell you what, let's see what happens. I just, if Texas score 3 touchdowns, I said this early in the season, guys, first 1 to 20 wins. And only maybe one team gets to 20.
I was going to say, I don't know. If you're telling me that, I trust Texas to get to 20 before I trust Michigan to get there.
Don't you think somebody's going to have to get there, Ron?
No, listen, I got a lot of trust in, and we can kind of start with Quinn, because a lot of this will be on Quinn on the road, because the Texas running game, I have no idea how the Texas running game is going to look on the road at Michigan versus that D-line. I don't. What I do have more trust in is that they have the best cornerback in college football. He's awesome. They got a really good safety as well, really good safety. They can't take away all the weapons in the passing game. You can take away the run game. The run game is a wholehearted effort. It's a team effort. It's schematic. You can't take away all the weapons in the passing game unless you got that many skilled defenders across the board. And the truth is, only a few schools in the country have that. Michigan, they got a really good back seven. I don't know if they have enough to hang with Texas receiving threats across the board for 4 quarters. Early on, they could do it, but I think with the adjustments by Sark for 4 quarters, that's going to be tough to do. The question will be, can Texas pass protect well enough, all right, against a stout defensive front and defensive line, and Wink Martindale, who's one of the best designers of pressure packages on any level of football. Can Texas pass protect well enough to give Quinn the time to hit him downfield? Because Big Ten speed is very different than Texas speed. I tell people all the time, go look, I believe it's a Tascasita, that they ran a faster time at the Texas high school relays, like the Texas high school championship relays in the 4x1, than the Big Ten champion. All right, then I think Iowa won the Big Ten championship for the 4x100 relay. Texas high school track, the fastest team, which I think was the Tascasita, they ran a faster time than the Big Ten champion. Texas speed is different. Now, I know they're getting different, but I'm telling you, the speed is just very different. The Big Ten ain't used to this speed. That's kind of one of the advantages that hopefully, supposedly in Oregon and USC are going to have when they go into that conference. So if I'm Texas, man, I'm going to blitz Michigan with that speed. Hell, Alabama had a tough time hanging with that speed. That's something that Sark has emphasized. His blueprint is built on it. I'd show it off to Michigan, see if they can handle it.
Yeah,
you have a better chance of winning a track meet than a fist fight against Michigan. Just gonna say that.
100%. And to your point about Michigan, I mean, we know about Will Johnson. We know that secondary has some playmakers. Fresno State was still able to move the ball through the air, right? 240 yards through the air.
Mm-hmm.
They found some success over the middle of the field. Whenever I was watching that game Saturday evening, it felt like there was a void in between the linebackers and the safeties. I don't know if there was just a gap, Rod, in terms of depth and coverage, but it felt like that middle of the field in the 10 to 12 to 15 yard range was open pretty often. That's where you saw a lot of success for Fresno State when they started to pass the ball vertically down the field. Guess who's really good in that range? Quinn Ewers. So if that's the area that Michigan gives to Texas, much like Colorado State did, I think that bodes very well for the Texas offense and Quinn Ewers to find some momentum in that intermediate phase of the passing game once again.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So I'm more confident now than I was prior to the season starting, but we got time to get into it, and we'll break it down. All right, we'll get into some recruiting nuggets. I know we got some recruiting nuggets and updates guys want to get to. We'll dive into that. But before we do, let me thank one of our fantastic sponsors. Thank you to our good friends at rogueshop.com. Our newest sponsor. We're really excited about this partnership. Rogue Shop is bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. Make sure you use the promo code ONTexas, of course. Use that promo code for a special discount. The Rogue Shop has it all, folks. from oils and creams, flour, gummies, and vitamins as well. Again, that's rogueshop.com. They ship nationwide. Use the code ONTexas for a special discount, and really excited. And you can go check them out at rogueshop.com. They do a great job. And of course, their partnership is really, really valuable to us. And we appreciate them for sponsoring our Sunday night live stream. All right, getting back to it, we got some questions here that we'll get to. Let's start with, how about this one from Rick? Rick says, Bobby, did you notice the zip on Quinn Ewers' passes? The one he threw to Bond before the 2-minute warning was humming. Thank you, Rick. We appreciate the question.
Yeah, I thought Quinn played better. And I said this, I wrote this morning, Rod, and I'd love to get yours and CJ's take on it. I think that we saw a Quinn Ewers that looked better in the red zone on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
If this Quinn Ewers plays in that Sugar Bowl, Texas wins that game.
I like
Just,
that.
Talking about how he has or hasn't improved year over year, or what he did or didn't work on. He made 2 really, really nice throws, competitive throws in the red zone, Rod and CJ.
Yeah.
He didn't do that as often a year ago or as consistently. Of course, the toss to Isaiah Bond was nice too, but that was wide open. I thought he made 2 really nice underneath throws, or not even underneath, but throws in the red zone. And we did not see him do that a bunch. We didn't see Sark ask him to do that a bunch last year. And so what happens if Texas does that a year ago from the 10 or 12-yard line, whatever it was, right?
That's a good point.
Yep. No, and I'm with you. And I looked at a few of the concepts. I'm going to go back and try to check out some of those red zone concepts, at least the passing ones. And, when I went back and tried to examine the red zone issues for Texas last season, and CJ did a great job too, and a very thorough breakdown of it. You should go check it out if you hadn't, on the website, ontexasfootball.com. And one of the things I found, just kind of looking at the most successful red zone concepts and plays they use, one of the common threads that I found was that you had to utilize misdirection. It was just, for Texas, it was just one of their, and all the successful plays I noticed, probably 60% of the time, there was some sort of mainstream misdirection in the play. And the reason that's so important is because everything happened so fast in the red zone. This was, I think, one of the issues for Quinn Ewers last season. He didn't get through progressions faster. And I think because of that, kind of his slow progression through his reads in the red zone, man, you're already behind the clock. All right, the defense has already reacted. When you throw in misdirection, the defense has to respect it because everything happens faster in the red zone. And then they react, which is an overreaction. And then the action goes the other way, and they're automatically behind. And if you're a step behind the red zone, game over. It's already done, right? Because everything's restricted because of the space. So when I look at it, the Matthew Golden touchdown, the beautiful throw by Quinn right over the shoulder of the defensive back on that quick out, misdirection. You had a rub route happening on that twin side. You go look at even the Bond touchdown. Bond himself turned it into a misdirection because he gave a hard inside release as if he was basically going to run an under route or a drag route or an in cut, and then takes it immediately, hard cut back outside. That's a form of misdirection for the DB. Reacting to 2 things in the red zone is really, really tough. Even the split zone RPO, the split zone stick RPO that they ran with Matthew Golden scores on the no-look pass from Quinn, essentially as misdirection. It's a switch release from the tight end, the flex tight end there, or the offset tight end from the wide receiver who's got a reduced split. That's one of the keys. You got to throw in misdirection. It makes everybody's job easier because the defense has to respect it. If they don't respect it, then they're going to give up, obviously, an easy touchdown some way or another. I think that's one of the things that Sark has thrown in there that, at least in the passing game, he's going to use a lot of in the passing game down there with Quinn. And I think they're going maybe more straight drop back, too, some of it with Quinn in the red zone, respecting that, clearing up, making you clear up some of the progressions and the reads for him.
If that's the case, Quinn has to be on time. And I thought that was the biggest takeaway for me in the red zone week 1 is he was on time, right?
Yeah,
you look at that throw to Matthew Golden, that's not completed if it's a step earlier or a step behind, right? Golden doesn't have his head turned around. And 2, if he's a step late, that ball might get picked off if the DB, gets closer to the sideline, turns back around, makes a play, whatever it might be. The comeback to Isaiah Bond, although he was open, it was perfectly thrown coming out of his break, coming back towards the corner. And, of course, that no-look pass, I mean, where has that been? That was quite the highlight for Quinn Ewers and quite the statement in game 1 of what's expected to be his final year as a Longhorn. So I was really impressed and encouraged in my eyes a little bit by that timing again, because there was issues last year, right? Maybe it was the man coverage at times. Maybe he didn't trust the breaks of receivers. Maybe it was just unfamiliarity at times. I'm not entirely sure. It shouldn't have been, because he had been with Xavier Worthy for forever, basically. But I was encouraged for a brand new group of wide receivers for Quinn to come in the red zone and say, all right, we're going to be on time. We're going to be accurate. And Texas certainly reaped the benefits of that.
Yeah. I got to say this. Remember how all off season, or not all off season, but early in camp, we were saying that Quinn had developed a rapport with Matthew Golden?
It's true.
Kind of looked like that to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of looked like that to me. Hey, people in the chat, Rod, let me take this real quick. People in the chat are talking and asking about Bo Barnes, one of the better recruits that Texas has commitment from right now. Really talented linebacker out of Dallas's Skyline High School, has been committed to Texas for a long time. He actually made an unofficial visit up to Oregon over the weekend with his family. Here's KD35. I heard Oregon got Bo Barnes to visit this weekend. That is someone I don't want to lose. He's definitely a key player to this class. We agree. Helps that Oregon looked awful on Saturday versus Idaho. I'm gonna say this, and this is from because Jerry Hamilton is on the road right now. By the way, he's going to see KJ Lacey tomorrow morning at his practice. Jerry called and said, "Hey, this is what needs to be said. He has not set up any official visits elsewhere at this time, and we're talking about the Bo Barnes. If he does, then there will be reason to be worried. If he doesn't, we'll see. It doesn't look like it wouldn't look like there would be. But if he does and starts that process, y'all be aware of that. So that's where it is. When guys start taking unofficial visits, you have to do a double take. And so that's where this recruitment is right now. More than that, we don't have more than that, according to Jerry, at least as of this evening. All right, Rod, what else you got for us, man? This USC's up 7-0 right now on LSU. LSU, they don't look the same without Jaden Daniels. Imagine that, right?
They both lost Heisman Trophy winners. So, I mean, USC lost one, and so did LSU. And both of them had defensive issues. LSU fired their whole staff because their defense was so porous. And obviously, Lincoln Riley can't figure out the defensive side of the ball. So, that's a hard one to pick. I'm not gonna lie. That's one of the toughest games of the college football weekend to pick, in my opinion.
It's Lincoln Riley's first. It's only his second defensive coordinator at anywhere he's been as a head coach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
the whole way through, and not very good. But Lincoln Riley apparently had I don't know if he had incriminating photos or what. But
it's remarkable it took that long to make a change. Remarkable.
We need to talk a little bit about the Aggies too. Ooh.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked the Aggies in that. I thought the Aggies would pull that out. I thought the Aggies would. I assumed the offense would be a little bit better than it was. I didn't know the offense would be that inept. That was shameful. Aggies. That was a shameful offensive performance, man. It was bad. Connor Wegman. I know they were projecting him to be a first round pick if he reached his upside. That did not look like a first round pick. That did not look like a round pick of any kind.
That looked like a square pick. Yeah. It was not around. I had a question for you, Rod. I think CJ tweeted something like Connor Wegman was I don't know if it's CJ or somebody else, tweeted about Connor Wegman actually being the lowest rated quarterback in the Power 5 conferences according to Pro Football Focus on Saturday. Whoa. That's how bad that was. But I have a question that I was debating with folks that I was actually watching the game with last night. Were his receivers even open? I mean, I didn't see – he airmailed one ball that was intercepted and picked off. But it wasn't like they were just wide open anywhere. I mean, every time he threw into something, it looked like it was pretty tight coverage from Notre Dame. So I was wondering, is it Wegman or is it the lack of receiver talent? Is it the offensive play calling? I mean, is it Notre Dame just being that good in the secondary? Maybe I couldn't really tell. You know what I mean?
Secondary, right, CJ? They got some ballers in the they got some NFL players in the secondary though.
Yeah. Listen, and Marcus Freeman's he's a secondaries coach, right? That's kind of his MO. He's going to get that secondary right. He's always had good defenders up there. I believe Kyle Hamilton is the guy that you can point to and say, yes, he can identify talent, he can develop talent, he can get that secondary right. That secondary is good. On the flip side, I had some folks out in College Station mention to me that maybe wide receiver was a underrated, maybe a big time question mark, under talked about issue with A&M coming into the season. And I think we saw that this year, right? You know who they could have used last night? A guy like Evan Stewart, someone that with that explosivity to create separation, because they just didn't have that. Noah Thomas, good wide receiver, not a guy that can separate very well, right? He's 6'5", big body. He's a possession catch guy. Connor Wegman was 1 of 6 last night on passes beyond 10 yards down the field. That's only one completion, went for 15 yards, threw 2 interceptions in that frame as well. So take that into account a little bit. If you're an opposing defense and you see what A&M's trotting out there at wide receiver and kind of that inability to create separation, I'm going to squeeze the box, make sure that offensive line can't get anything going there, and then make Connor Wegman go down the field and beat me there, because at 1 of 6 and 2 picks, I'll take my chances with that every day of the week. And that's right now Texas A&M's biggest issue. By the end of that game, I mean, Notre Dame was tremendously close to the line of scrimmage. They gave no respect to the receivers. It was a well-coached defense, obviously, but that was a bad showing by Colin Klein in his debut. 100 passing yards and not much distinction from what Jimbo Fisher had as the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M.
No, I agree with you. It didn't seem any different. That's the scary part. And they had all this change, and the offense still looked like it was an offense from the 20th century, not the 21st century. So I picked the Aggies, though. I will say, full disclosure, I picked the Aggies, man. I thought Elko, that defense at home. So bad showing for the Aggies offensively there.
Notre Dame had a pair of running backs that were pretty darn good, too.
Yeah, they did.
They had a couple cats.
Yeah. Football Junkie, thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate you very much. How good is this D-line? The couple of the 5 to 8 yard runs, 2 linemen were up in the linebacker's face. He said, can't wait for Saturday. Will we be 3 linebacker sets? Will we run 3 linebacker sets? Excuse me. Thank you, Football Junkie. We appreciate that. Yes, we will run 40 personnel is what they call it. You have 4 DBs out there a lot of the time when Michigan runs power sets. Any power sets are 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, 21 personnel, 2 back, 1 tight end, 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, 13 personnel, 1 back, 3 tight ends. They'll throw all those power sets at you. If they spread you out, a lot of times for Michigan, they're spreading you out, trying to thin the box so they can run the football. So Michigan wants to run, and they want to play bully ball. They may not be. We'll see if they can play bully ball against Texas. If you want to, we got to try to be nitpicky at one point. Texas had a shutout, scored 52 points. You want to be nitpicky. You can look at potentially some of the inside runs that Texas allowed. They gave up a couple of inside runs. Did they have a push inside versus Colorado State? You can go look and see if they had a consistent push inside. Did they penetrate into the backfield and make a lot of plays from that interior line position? That's things we can go back and look. I'm going to go try to watch more of that in my rewatch of things, but that's something you're going to need versus Michigan. Guys to penetrate, reset the line of scrimmage, get in the backfield to make plays. If they're just standing, kind of standing their ground and not penetrating, I still think that could end up favoring Michigan. You need guys playing in the backfield on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and you got the guys to do it. I know they got them on the edges. I just wonder if they got them in the interior. I think they do. And if they don't, they can manufacture it in different ways.
Yeah, there was one moment, I believe it was the 3rd possession of the game. I made this a note in my kind of immediate reactions to the game that I put up on ontexasfootball.com. Texas actually trotted out 3 interior defensive linemen for a look. It's pretty interesting. It was Aaron Bryant, Vernon Broughton, and Bill Norton. I thought that was a maybe a little taste of what could come maybe with, an Alfred Collins, a Tia Savea, Jermaine Lele, some of those pass rushing threats as well. It was interesting. Of course, maybe they're just looking to stop the run a little bit. It was the third possession of the game. So maybe just trying to get guys into the game to get, their feet wet, if you will. But I made note of that because I thought it was a unique look that maybe I wasn't expecting coming in, or at least seeing that early in the ball game. So we'll certainly see different looks, different usages of guys. Again, I noted Colin Simmons in the rapid reactions that we posted earlier today. He was on the field a few times, but the first times I noticed him was actually in coverage. That's not going to be his MO at the college level. We know how talented he is getting after the quarterback. You're going to see them start to peel back that onion a little bit, right? Get that curtain out of the way, whatever, and let those guys play freely, but only as the season progresses. They're not going to show Michigan anything they don't need to. And offensively, that's why you didn't see Quinn really attempt anything beyond 20 yards down the field in the opener as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Nice stuff there. Thank you, Football Junkie, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Hey, Bobby, some folks want to know for the Michigan game where Texas is going to be. Jake says, hey, where y'all going to be at, Bobby, for the game? Bond is him. Says, will y'all be going to Ann Arbor? I like that name. Will y'all be going to Ann Arbor? He wants to know as well. I'm sure some folks want to be reminded where the On Texas Football family is going to be for the Texas-Michigan setup.
Ooh. We're going, baby. Don't worry about that now. We're headed that way. Hey, got it. We have a tailgate going on. We're tailgating again with the guys over from Surly Horns. We will be there, and it is. I've got the map. Ready for everybody. We'll put up information in the morning on the site. We've already done one, but now I think that they can confirm the place, given that we know that both Game Day and Fox Big Noon are going to be there, if that makes sense. So they've solidified the tailgate. We'll put that up in the morning for Coffee and Football, and make sure you check out ontexasfootball.com for the announcement there. Really excited about going up there. I've been to the Big House, okay, and I've never been for a game. I mean, we were talking about this at the tailgate on Saturday. The Rose Bowl was the first time Texas ever played Michigan, right?
Wow.
In the history of those two programs.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
This will be the second time and the first time ever where it's going to be a home and home series. So first ever visit for the Longhorns to Ann Arbor. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Hey, bring your jackets. It's going to be a little chilly.
It's going to be a little
Hey, CJ's right. I was just looking. So Rick Ambergate mentioned in the chat, it's supposed to be 63, high of 63 on Saturday. That's a little bit.
Hoodie season, Bobby.
Yeah, it is hoodie weather. You better get after it. You better bring it, CJ.
I'll be starting up a campfire, Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's football weather.
Oh man. Hey, yeah, trust me. Hey, I used to live in Michigan, so I know all about that Michigan weather. I don't miss it at all. Don't miss it. No. I much rather sweat than freeze.
The winter weather up there, man, is just brutal.
Brutal. Oh man, it's a different kind of cold. I don't know why I kept getting drafted by cold weather team. I got getting quiet by cold weather team. I got drafted by the Giants. The Lions kept me around. Chicago Bears. I just wanted to be in Florida somewhere. You know what I mean? Jacksonville, Texas. None of those teams like me, and the cost of living killed me too. But anyway, let's get back to it. How about this one from John? John says, "Why no long ball? Are we hiding scheme?" Yeah, according to Pro Football Focus, and I honestly, right now, top of my head, I really can't remember. They said Texas only had one deep ball, or Quinn had one deep ball. I don't know, CJ. I know you track a lot of that stuff too. I don't remember many passes downfield. Even Quinn said the interception, he was trying to throw the ball away. He wasn't even trying to look downfield on the interception that got deflected and ended up being a takeaway for Colorado. So Texas did not really threaten every level of the passing game. It's kind of stuck to intermediate to the short area. But do you think it was because they were hiding scheme? Thank you, John, for the question.
Yeah, I thought so a little bit. I thought the first couple of possessions were a bit vanilla, and then you see Sarkisian go. I think after the interception, you had the stalled punt, and then you had a score, and then you had the interception. You're sitting there, and you're like, all right, well, this isn't exactly where you want to be, but you can't break open the bank all the way, right, if you're Sarkisian. But he did go to one play that he loves to go to, and it's where he's got his two wide receivers out to the left, plays a deep, long play action fake, and it's kind of a post out. right?
Yes.
That kind of boomerang route, reverse
Yep.
boomerang to the sideline. We saw it all the time a year ago with a guy like Jordan Whittington or even Jatavian Sanders kind of from that slot inline tight end position. I believe it was Matthew Golden's first reception, in which then kind of spurred, I believe, a 39-yard run or whatever after the catch, whatever. But that's when I realized, I was like, okay, Sark's had enough of this slow start. He's digging into his bag of tricks, his old reliable, opening up the box and going to the plays that he knows are going to work. That's when I was like, okay, he's going to peel it back a little bit. But that was really the only time in which I looked at it and said, okay, that's a play where I've seen it before. I've recognized it before. I know Texas is going to use that again. That was really one of the only options that I saw from Sarkisian where he went to his bag of tricks. And even then, I mean, we've seen that many of times in the past. So it's nothing earth-shattering, nothing groundbreaking. It was very vanilla through and through, and obviously it didn't need to be that crazy. What I did like from Sarkisian, and we talked about this earlier, red zone plays. A little bit more of a unique, aggressive look in the red zone, and it paid off certainly for the Longhorns.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, we just didn't. I think that I agree with CJ. I think that's intentional. I do remember that play though. It's like it's a play action. They call it like a flood thumb route, but then from that slot, he basically runs that deep. It almost looks like he's going to run a deep over route. Then he takes it back out to the sideline. Yeah, no, it's a sexy route
concept in theory, but the route it takes a different angle.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's a sexy concept. I remember it's a staple. It's one of now Longhorn fans have seen enough Sark plays. They go, oh, I remember that play. I recognize that play. Jay Witt got open on that play. No, I love that. That's fantastic. Okay, good stuff there, CJ. We got another one here from Cameron Miller. He says, was around the CSU team on the flight line as they waited to board their massive plane. Heard some moan about pains. Some talking about some of our players' speeds and how big our guys are. Thank you for the inside information, Cameron. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
That's why we go to the airport, folks.
Well, I mean, that's but the speed, though. I mean, that's something Sark talked about even in the post game. Bobby talked about the speed, and then I recognize the physicality. Guys were, they were coming to the ball with a purpose. And there was some guys trying to deliver some strikes. It seems like there's a different, now I know I'm talking about mostly on defense, but you can see the speed on offense too. But defense, I think it's obvious how much faster and how much more athletic they are. Whether you're talking about the edges or the linebacker, even Benda looks faster. I know he's not faster but he's just now a veteran and now sees the game. So the game is slowed down for him. So he looks faster because he's now, I think, dissecting and diagnosing plays better. But everybody looks a little fast. Taft Daddy looks faster out there. And like I said, the team overall, to me, they look like a faster, they more, I would say more aggressive overall defense. And they played like that too.
I just love the speed, man. Mm-hmm. That's my piece on it is Texas, we talked about this and man, we suffered it too, Rod. After you left and then about another 10 years, Texas had as much speed as anybody they played each and every week, just about. Yeah. And then in about 2012, 2010, or 2013, Baylor started having more speed. TCU had more speed. Oklahoma had more speed. Not at every position. But Texas didn't have what I call team speed, elite team speed. And now they do. I mean, they're fast. I talked about this. I don't think they're faster at wide receiver. I know people say, oh, well, they're just as fast. They're close, but they're not as fast as they were a year ago. Silas Bolden clearly is not as fast as Xavier Worthy, right? Otherwise, that punt return would have been a little further along. Not sure Xavier makes the same move in the open field that Silas did. That was a great move, but you know what I mean? I mean, when he was wide open, Worthy's a little faster. But my point on this is they're faster at tight end. They're faster at running back. I think they're faster at DB. They're faster at linebacker than they were a year ago.
Yeah.
The speed at linebacker was noticeable.
Yeah, I know. I agree because it wasn't – I mean, Benda, on the second watch, Rod, I was watching this after you did this afternoon. He made some decisions and went.
Dude, yes.
I was and he used – this is one of the things that a lot of good linebackers like Zach Thomas and Dat Wynn, two smaller guys. That David Benda is, by the way, he's a smaller guy.
He's a small linebacker. Yep.
When he comes to the podium and speaks after during a media availability, and CJ and I are there. Look, I'm 6 foot or 5'11 3/4, but I claim 6 foot. He's my size or a little under.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's not, he used that to get underneath some guys and in between some cracks and crevices on Saturday. Use that to your advantage. It can be a negative. There's no doubt that it can be a negative. You get swallowed up, but use that lack of that and use your speed instead. Mo Blackwell, very fast for that position.
Agreed.
Colin Simmons for his position, exceedingly fast.
Really well. Yeah.
He can move real well. So I'm this is why Sark said he loves it. Rod, I do think they're the fastest team we've really seen in 15 to 20 years at Texas. They've got speed just about darn everywhere. Yep. Now, they may not be as fast at wide receiver, but everywhere else, speed. They've got it much, much better. Now, the secondary may not have elite speed, but they're faster than they were a year ago because Gavin Holmes is faster. Jalen Gilbo is faster.
Makuba
is faster. Aaron Thompson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying they're elite everywhere, but
more team speed. No, I'm with. I agree. It's when you watch it, it's obvious. Against Michigan, we'll see if it stands, but I'm with you. I think that's definitely been a priority for him. Hey, Ryan, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate this. Ryan says Texas A&M is a third-tier SEC program. Damn. He said this ain't the '90s, Rod B and Bobby. They have one double-digit win season this century. OU only serious rival. Yeah, I mean, you could if you want to. I figure this thing kind of goes in cycles for different programs. So the Aggies right now, they got to figure out offense. I don't think defense is a concern. They got to listen. Texas went through an offensive identity crisis. It wasn't as bad as what the Aggies are going through right now. But you guys remember that Texas had an offensive identity crisis where changing coaches a lot on the offensive side of the ball. Can't figure out what they want to be offensively, what brand of football they want to play offensively. I mean, it happens. Then that stunts the development of the players on the offensive side of the ball. So you can't develop quarterbacks, and you can't develop, tight ends, and you don't develop offensive linemen because you don't have a brand of football that you're playing. So how can you develop talent when you don't really know exactly what you're trying to achieve offensively? Now that you have an identity offensively, Sark, he can pump it out. He knows exactly what kind of receivers he's like. So do we. He knows exactly what kind of offensive lineman he like. So do we. Right? Everybody knows what Sark likes. It ain't no secret. He likes big humans on the offensive line. He likes 5-star quarterbacks. He likes fast, speed, demon wide receivers. It ain't no secret. And I think Texas went through a period like that. So I'm not taking up for the Aggies, but they got to figure out offense. You can't, this day and age, you rather be inept on defense than on offense. Yeah. Offense, that hurt recruiting, right, CJ? That being bad on offense hurts recruiting. Period.
Yeah, it does, right? You kind of thrive off of the big, explosive highlight reel plays. Texas obviously has had plenty of those under Sarkisian, especially last year when you could watch Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, kind of streaking down the field. One thing I want to say about Texas A&M is I think you'd be a little foolish to write them completely off. I thought that defense was very talented. I think they have a lot of good playmakers on that defense. I'm not sure if Nick Scourton was dinged up officially or if he came back in. I kind of stopped watching towards the end of that game once Notre Dame went up by 2 scores. But that defense, to me, I thought they played pretty well in all 3 levels of the defense. But to your point, Rod, if you can't top 100 yards at home, that's tough. That's not going to bode well with recruits. It's not going to bode well for the overall outlook of your program. But I do think that defense is going to be what carries them through a lot of games this year. And I think that they're going to be a pretty tough team, regardless of what the situation is. A lot of their games this year are going to look very similar to what they saw last night.
Yeah.
No, if it looks similar to that last night, how do you like watching paint dry, guys?
Bobby, it would have been a perfect Big Ten game.
I've been to games like that in seventh grade football about that exciting on offense. You want to talk about – look, Colin Klein is said to be this mastermind or whatever. He's a Bill Snyder disciple.
Yeah, he is.
The only thing that was unique about Bill Snyder's offense, in my opinion, was the QB run game.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to have a QB run game if Connor Wegman's your guy and he's got concussion problems.
Yep, totally agree.
What's unique about what they're going to do? Nothing. You're just going to have to out personnel people. They have a great running back, or maybe shy of great. Le'Veon Moss is a good player, right? They have a decent offensive line in run blocking. They were moving Notre Dame until Notre Dame added another guy to the box. They don't have a great tight end. They don't have great wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line. And I'm not sure. I mean, who's their playmaker on offense? I don't know. I mean, Texas may have 4 before you'd pick A&M's 1.
Yeah.
I
think that's a great point. If you stack the two teams' wide receivers and said, all right, rank them by best, how far down that list do you have to go before you see the first A&M guy? I think probably 4, maybe 5.
I was gonna say maybe it's crazy. You might go 5. I know this feels arrogant to say, but I agree with you, CJ.
I mean, after watching last night, where was the separation? But also, in KD 35, I am the best. I mean, if Iowa can score 40, there's no reason why you shouldn't be scoring more than 1 touchdown at home, right? I mean, you throw for 100 yards the entire game with a 5-star quarterback, something's wrong, especially in the day and age in which Iowa's figured it out, in which that looked like they never get it right.
What was the last time Iowa scored 40 points? We got to go look at that. That is wow. Iowa's become like a national joke because they can't score. They great on defense, but they can't score on offense. I cannot believe they scored 40 points. That's mind-blowing. Good stuff.
Hey, Rod, before we say thanks to our friends over at South Point Dodge, I want to show this one to everybody because we are fans of all Texas athletics on this show, even though we're called on Texas football. And the Lady Longhorns took it to Wisconsin today. They won in 4 sets on national TV. Women's college volleyball. Congrats to the 2-time defending national champs. Rod, if you'll do the honors for our friends over at South Point, that'd be great, bud.
Yes, and I am honored to give you the message from our friends over at South Point. Really grateful to have them a part of the On Texas football family. So Longhorn fans, if you want to score an easy extra point this season, you can get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s, whatever your truck needs. South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Right now, you can score big because they have a great deal happening right now at South Point Dodge with over 50 Ram 1500s, all marked down with huge savings over at South Point Dodge. So get on over there right now. They have a great selection, as I said, at South Point Dodge. You can check it out for yourself at southpointdodge.com, or you can go see it for yourself in person off of I-35 in South Austin at South Point Dodge. Get to the point with our friends from South Point Dodge. Thank you very much for sponsoring our Sunday night live stream. All right, getting back to it here. Justin Yarbo says, Rod, what did you think of all the young guys on defense? I know Kobe Black is really long, and JJR, Jordan Johnson-Rubel, I'm assuming, was around the ball a lot. Great job, fellas. Yeah, I love – listen, the young DBs came out, and I will say that Colorado State wasn't challenging Texas at one point. They basically they waved the white flag. So now they didn't challenge the young guys as much as I thought. But I like the way they looked. You didn't get a lot of drop-off. There weren't a lot of, busted plays or, busted assignments late in the game when they started to put the young guys in. I've been a big Kobe Black fan. I mean, Kobe Black's going to be, I think, ideally a press coverage specialist for them. And that's what they want from. They want to start playing more press coverage. They did, I think, situationally against Colorado State. I think they ultimately want to start doing that and being more aggressive across the board. And the young DBs they're bringing in really kind of showcase that. Even the young kind of Caleb Chester we talked about too at the cornerback position. So I like Kobe Black. I like George Johnson. I like the secondary overall. I told Bobby that earlier today. Secondary. I think the fact that they're getting now individual coaching at every position, including nickel, they do seem to more buttoned up, more disciplined with their eyes. The fundamentals of the guys seem a little bit better. Reckless Trade, thank you for a super chat. Reckless, appreciate that. Says one of your biggest complaints last year, Rod, was the lack of communication by DBs. They were very visibly talking. Great sight to see. Yeah, it seemed like they were, in my opinion, like I said, more buttoned up, disciplined overall. Fundamentals seem to be a little bit more finely tuned. I thought the DBs overall going against the air raid attack, I thought they looked really good. I did. Even, not a lot of missed tackles, if any, from that secondary that I can remember. And I went back and looked at it today. I mean, you're talking about guys who were playing some sticky coverage. I mean, that was some sticky coverage being played. And, even when Texas gave them some room to work offensively, I thought they did a great job of playing the sticks in situations where they'd be third down, or I thought Texas was really good in terms of being assignment sound. And they threw out some exotic looks, which we talked about on the second watch. You can go check that out too. Thank you, Rick.
Rob, before you go forward, I want to mention this about the Kobe Black with Justin Yarbrough was talking about.
Yeah.
When CJ sent out the official depth chart on Saturday, when we first got it, right? What did we get that? Like right at noon on Saturday, yeah. CJ, something like that. One of the main things I saw actually was Kobe Black moved into second string ahead of Warren Roberson. Y'all remember that? So as a young guy, he's moving up a little bit.
Wow.
So keep that in mind. Ted Price, guys, has this one. He's cooing a little bit here. I know we don't care about Tech anymore, but all those points, 52-51, by the way, they beat Abilene Christian. I don't know if y'all saw this, but before we start talking about the rest of it, Abilene Christian's bus got hit by what appears to be a drunk driver after the game.
That's horrible.
And several players may have, I think 5 people all total taken to the hospital. It didn't sound like there were any major injuries, but seriously, I mean, come on.
That's horrible.
You know they have a police escort, and you're still going to hit the bus. I mean,
how drunk? That's crazy. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. But here's the rest of it from Ted Price. All those points at Texas Tech and a certain 5-star named Micah Hudson, nowhere on the stat sheet, or did I miss it? No, he had 0 catches for 0 yards. Ryan Wingo, by the way, led the Longhorns in comparison, CJ, with yards on yards.
Wow.
Yeah, I was noticing that earlier, Bobby. Only 3 snaps for Micah Hudson. I thought that was pretty interesting. A game in which went to overtime. We obviously know how big of a win that was for Texas Tech in the world of recruiting. 5-star guy, one of the top receivers in the country. Only 3 snaps. And, of course, Evan Stewart, only 3 receptions for 15 yards, in which we saw Dylan Gabriel go for about 400. So, pretty interesting on a couple of wide receivers in which Texas fans were pretty invested in earlier this offseason.
Wow. That's and then you look at all the receivers, not all of them, but a lot of the receivers in the Texas offense. We were worried about, is there enough targets to go around with this group? And everybody, and I point this out in the post game. It is fascinating. Everybody played a really cool role within the passing game. Bond was your leader in targets and your leader in receptions. Wingo was your leader in yards and in yak yards. Golden was your red zone weapon. He's a leader in touchdowns. And Jonte Cook was your leader in yards per reception, and he had the longest reception of the evening. And it's like, is it possible that they really all could just be playing, just fill in nicely in these roles? That it is fascinating to watch that materialize. Like, it is going to be really compelling. Okay.
Here's another one too. Silas Bolden had 1 catch for a touchdown and really played a role in the punt return game.
And the special teams, yeah. I mean,
so add him to that list too, Rod.
Unbelievable. It really is. That's what I say. I've been saying it for a while. Passing games got to lead the way. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, it's too obvious for me. The passing game has to lead the way. I'm not saying you got to be air raid and have lopsided, but the pass needs to open up the run. And that's your strength. That's where all your weapons are. That's what's gonna make a defensive coordinator's life hell. That's what's gonna keep him up at night. You want to run the ball, you just making his life easy. If you run it too much, I'm just saying. Even the early down pass rate in the game, go look at the first half early down pass rate. Sark knows it. You're around 58% in those first 5 drives. And it's going to be like that all season long. Early game. Throughout the game, by the 4 quarters, I think it'll balance out. But early on, again, it's got to be in Quinn's hands. And in Sark's offensive brilliance will be in his play design in the passing game, not in the run game. The run game will complement the passing game this season. All right, Rudy, thank you for the super chat. Rudy wants to know, did the staff know about Elijah Bourne's unofficial visit to Oregon? Thank you, Rudy. We appreciate that. Very kind of you. What are your thoughts? Bobby?
Yeah, I talked to Jerry Hamilton earlier today before this, but just before we came on air, he said that no, Texas did not know at the time. We'll see exactly what this means. As of right now, Jerry's reporting that, hey, until or unless Elijah Barnes sets an official visit elsewhere, it's good news for Texas for now. We'll see where this goes. I think that there's some things to figure out there. So I would just stay tuned with Elijah Bo Barnes, good player out of Dallas Skyline High School. It goes to show, too, Oregon trying to sow some discord, I think, in the DFW area in particular, and having some success with Rashad Samples in that staff.
One thing I want to add real quick on recruiting, I was able to make it down to the field for the final 3 or 4 minutes, up from the box down to the field in our little corner. And as a result, I'm right in front of the recruits, right? So I look up. Who am I looking for? Well, I see big Lance Jackson and Caleb Chester sitting right in front of one another, hanging out, having a good time. I actually bumped into Lance following the game, as he's leaving. I kind of, said hello, saw his parents, got to kind of ask him what his thoughts were. And immediately he goes, defense allowed 0 points. As a defensive player, I love that. D-line looked great. I'm all about it. So encouraging stuff right there. Obviously, Rod, to your point about 50-0 wins, recruits love it. And it also keeps you on par with the rest of the SEC, right? Because when you look around the SEC scoreboard and you see Alabama winning 60-0, Ole Miss winning 60-0, Missouri, Tennessee, some of these schools putting up big-time points. You don't want to lose week 1, right? You certainly don't want to lose week 1, but you'd like to have a great showing like that where everybody has that momentum going into week 2, and you can talk about it with recruits going into, further down the line in the season as well.
Hey, CJ, when's the next kind of sizable visit weekend, in your opinion, based on what you and Jerry are hearing for the Longhorns?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a pretty solid group, maybe another kind of regional commits coming back for UTSA. But, man, that Georgia game down the line is going to be really big. Before then, and I skipped over this, Mississippi State is going to be a really big football game for the Longhorns and their recruiting staff, of course. First SEC game, we're expecting that to be an early afternoon kick. But that gives you opportunity afterward to hang out with the recruits, give them some opportunities to get there, hang out with the staff beforehand, hang out with the players afterwards, but also feel like they saw enough of the game and atmosphere, which should be rocking, of course, with it being Texas's first SEC football game. But Mississippi State, then Georgia, and we'll see what happens a little bit later on with Florida and Kentucky.
Ooh, Florida. Florida.
Man,
you want to be Billy Napier? Hey,
too bad.
He's lucky he wasn't coming back from BYU, because he may have been fired on the tarmac like Matt or like Andy Diaz.
Yeah, he's a dead man walking at this point. Pooh, thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate it. Pooh says Mac Brown was obsessed with pro-style offense after getting smacked by Alabama. He didn't realize power running was an attitude or philosophy, not a game plan. Led us into dark times. Yeah, that was the offensive. Basically, Mac, unfortunately, was the catalyst for the offensive identity crisis that Texas went through, right? Because and Mac ultimately, because I witnessed it, Mac was I always say you classify coaches, they're either system or formula guys, right? Are you a system guy? You're a formula guy. System guys, they carry their system with them everywhere they go. It's their calling card. Sark has a system, his system. He runs it. He carries it with him. He evolves it. He fine-tunes it every year or so, whatever. Keeps it up to date. Lincoln Riley's got his own system. Then there are some coaches who are formula guys, right? They just have a formula to win, not necessarily a system they carry with them. Think of it like there's some people that bake from scratch, and there are some people that just use the Betty Crocker, mix of brownies or whatever, right? Those are the system guys. It makes it easy. They come on campus, they recruit to that system, they develop in that system, makes everything easier, man. Just add some eggs, add some milk, shake it up, put it in the pan, put it in the oven, and you're done, right? Quick fix. Mac was a formula guy. So Mac would look at every team, the talent that he accumulated, and mostly depending on the quarterback, and then that would determine kind of the identity of the offense. So that's why it would change, like kind of year to year, right? When Sims had a different system than VY. VY had a different system than Colt. They all had different systems than Major Applewhite. It would change, and that was fine. Mac tried to go from being a formula guy to a system guy. because he called his shot after he lost that game. To Pooh's point, he said, we're going to be a power running game. It was like, whoa, Mac, that's not what you do. You know, that's not what you do. That's not your identity. You don't just declare what you're going to be. Usually you're a formula guy. You look at your system and goes, Garrett Gilbert's our quarterback. He's a spread guy. All right, we're going to spread him out. We're going to run it. Bam. Pace and space, baby. That's what we're going to do. That's what he's comfortable with. That's what we're going to do. And Mac didn't do that. He declared it and called his shot. He switched. And I think ultimately it came back to haunt him. It threw Texas into this offensive identity crisis where, remember, Mac started changing every year. He went from, he was like, oh, power running game, we're not going to be that. Well, then Brian Harsin, the show about nothing, we'll be that. No, we're going to be what Major Upright wants to be. We'll be that. We'll be. He kept switching up. He couldn't figure it out. And by the time he tried to catch up, you were out of the quarterback recruiting game. And that caught up to Mac because ultimately you were in the state that was a quarterback mecca, developing the best quarterbacks in the country. And because of your offensive identity crisis, you couldn't recruit a quarterback to your system. Nobody wanted to play for whatever that system was at the time. So proved to your point. Yes. But now you are no longer in the dark ages. You got a coach with a system, his calling card, and you don't have to ever worry about that again. But that was the only thing that Mac messed up on. He didn't realize where he didn't realize the pivot. He went to spread. He went to power running game when everybody was going to spread. And it was like, Mac, no, you missed it. It's like, go spread. What are you doing? You're good. You already had the game, and he wanted to pivot back the other way. And then Nick Saban, ironically, ended up going what? Spread. It's like, anyway. All right, thank you, Pooh. Sorry, don't get me started. Sorry about getting on my soapbox. WTP Sports Dudes, appreciate you. Who will lead team in receiving touchdowns, yards, and receptions? I'll throw this to you guys. CJ, your thoughts. Who leads the team in receiving touchdowns, yards, receptions? You go first.
I think right now Quinn's got himself a bit of a favorite in the red zone, right? You know, I think Matthew Golden, that rapport, it feels like that was kind of the indications of where things would go long-term for the Longhorns. I like that pick right now. Receiving yards.
TDs or for receiving and yards? Which one?
That's for touchdowns. I like Matthew Golden in the red zone. I think, again, Ryan Wingo is going to find and factor himself into that conversation later on down the year as well. I like the target share that we saw from Isaiah Bond, however. You know, led the team with 7 targets. I think he's going to be your yards leader, probably receiving leader as well. But closer to the red zone, I think there's a little bit more shiftiness in the game of someone like Matthew Golden. But hey, you know, two really good wide receiver options for the Longhorns. Of course, we've talked about it all offseason. We saw it on display on Saturday. I like the two of them to be kind of the 2 focal points in this offense moving forward. But I'm going to be really interested to see what kind of niche role Silas Bolden kind of works his way into, because we didn't see a whole lot of him, but we did see the touchdown. Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, he looked like the odd man out, CJ.
Yeah,
Silas Bolden did, but because this is what's really crazy, Rod and CJ. We heard he had the best fall camp of all receivers. Were they just holding him back for Michigan? Surely not, right? You don't think so? I mean, Sark. I mean, one catch for 5 yards, no targets. Otherwise, I mean, wasn't even targeted, guys.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Sark's realizes he's a small dude and wants to keep him, you know, as a weapon elsewhere. I don't know what else to say, but I'm with CJ. Matthew Golden touchdowns. I think the rapport that we talked about early, I'm there. Receptions, I'm also with CJ on that, on Isaiah Bond, because guess what? First game of the season, he gets targeted 7 times. I think that's 3 more than everybody other than Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue have 5 or 6?
He had 6. He had 6, I thought.
Yeah. So Jaden Blue and Isaiah Bond got targeted more than anybody else. Ryan Wingo, I mean, come on now. That move, I mean, he gave a dead leg move almost from a full sprint. Did he not?
No, it was impressive.
That was impressive.
Bobby, there were a few catch and runs that I thought that were really impressive. First, obviously, Wingo's the one that you're talking about. It's not a catch and run, but to catch the punt on the run and then make some moves after that for Silas Bolden, which I don't know how often we've seen a 2-back receiver look on a punt, but that's unique. And then the other one I want to mention, and it only got to the 25, but I think Matthew Golden broke about 5 tackles on that first kickoff of the game. He only got to the 25, but man, he was a pinball bumping around inside that return, and that was impressive as well. Rod, let me get your thoughts as, a guy who's seen special teams and elite returners, firsthand. Texas putting Jonte Cook back there, Texas putting Silas Bolden at times, Golden, some of these other guys, they had a lot of options, right? But to put two guys back there, you can't directionally punt it away from them anymore. You have to – someone's catching the ball, right? And that makes Texas that much more tougher to defend long-term in these special forces.
Yeah, and also I was a gunner, so it's tougher for a gunner too, because now I got two options I got to worry about in terms of the football. Now I got to track the football better. So I usually know where they're going directionally, as they tell you. Sometimes they don't always go there, right? They tell you where it's going directionally, so you should know. But then you got to worry about that other return guy coming off to block you, which they ultimately do as a gunner too. So if you're the first gunner down there, your reward is, you're probably going to get blocked again. So I kind of like that strategy. Pick your poison. I'm with you. And Texas has some deadly return guys back there too in Bolden and Golden. My thoughts: who's going to receiving touchdowns? I agree with those guys about Golden, man. Just see you're no look passing to somebody. I mean, you definitely got rapport with them. What the hell? You no look passing?
That's like Mahomes to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, it's like what? That is wild. He never did that with Jatavian Sanders or X-Man. I never saw that. So that to me tells Golden's gonna be the guy that he's gonna look for in the red zone. The receptions, I agree with Bobby to it. When Starks looks like he's gonna force feed somebody, and it's gonna be Bond. Yardage is interesting, man. I assume the guy that gets the most receptions has the best chance for that. That'll be Bond. But man, Wingo and Cook are interesting because Cook he had your longest plays and your best yards per reception. And Ryan Wingo, we know every time he gets the ball, he's only going to get better. He already looked really good. He's only going to get better. Everybody's going to get a little bit better, but he's just a freshman. So his rate of development is going to be faster than everybody else's. They're not going to develop as fast as Ryan Wingo. They're not. That dude,
I got something for you guys. Halftime of LSU USC.
Uh-oh.
Let me give you it's 10-10.
Yuck.
Okay. Compare this to A&M's passing game last night. One quarterback is 13 of 15 for 176. The other is 20 of 24 for 191.
Whew.
Quarterback play, and it is only 10-10. 2 quarters. Yeah.
Well, we did see some of the comments. USC has made some tremendous catches. Kyron Lacey is one of the best wide receivers in the country. Bobby, to your point about the quarterback play, it certainly helps when you have some guys that can create separation or win those 50-50 balls as well. So, yes, quarterback play is improved. Wide receivers also to the point we're making about A&M and that stagnant offense. I don't know. That has to improve immediately for A&M or it's going to be a long year. I do have one other point I wanted to make, and I saw a lot of comments about this as well. This from Brandon Hines. I knew Wisner was fast, but man, he gets to speed real quick with the ball in his hand. And I absolutely agree. That stood out to me immediately, especially in the red zone. We talked about that burst that Jaden Blue can bring. Wisner looked really good in his runs as well. Was there anybody else that kind of surprised you guys? Maybe you didn't have them on your radar, but played well. It felt like everybody at some point had a moment that you could look to and say, okay, yeah, that lines up with what we've been hearing.
Gunnar Helms' catch.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Bobby.
Y'all talked about run after catch, and you said good moves. I didn't know he had dancer's feet. I mean, that's for sure.
I didn't think he'd have a hurdle in him.
Yeah. No, that was good.
Jonte Cook had a good run after catch, too. That was when he sat down. That's the same. By the way, that play they ran was the same exact play that Arch completed his first pass a year ago.
The roll out?
Does that roll right and hit Jonte stopping in the middle right there on that side sitting down?
Yeah.
I'm in that frame of guys that look good that I didn't expect to look as good. Jalen Gilbo led the team in tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By 3. I think he had 8. Next guy was 5. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Jalen Gilbo. Barron Sorrell did play his side well, according to Cisco. I agree with that. But the other one for me on defense was actually David Benda.
Absolutely.
And I thought Vernon Broughton pass rush well. He did not necessarily play the run well again, based on my rewatch.
And they
great.
No, to that point, Bobby, about Vernon Broughton as a pass rusher, I know when they did the NASCAR package a lot of the time, it wasn't with Alfred Collins in the NASCAR package. Vernon Broughton was the D tackle in the NASCAR package a lot of the time, which I thought was intriguing. I'm like, I thought that was Alfred Collins, but the coaches agree with you. I mean, apparently with that package,
he's got great get off. In if he doesn't have to worry about being in a hole.
Yeah.
And gap integrity.
Just run. Hey, stop the run on your way to the quarterback, son. You're good. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's what Vernon does, and he does it well. Alfred, I thought, but my guys, I mentioned him already. I think Benda for this game for me played better than I was hopeful for him, guys, because he was in a larger role this year, but he had never been the guy like that or one of the real starters, because Anthony Hill kind of usurped him last year, but I thought Benda had a whale of a first game. That is all you could want and more, in my opinion. So
yeah, because you're gonna need them. Who's that third linebacker they start versus Michigan? Let's say they start 40 personnel with just 4 DBs and then obviously a front 7 of some kind. Who's the third linebacker? It's Anthony Hill, Benda. Who's the third linebacker that starts versus Michigan on the road versus a bully ball power run team?
I think they could go a couple different ways. One is Mo Blackwell.
Yep.
I think that they could go that based on how they played some of that. They worked Trey Moore a little bit at that position this year too.
Interesting.
And so I just don't know though, Rod. They were so multiple. To your point, and me trying to answer that question right now for y'all and y'all thinking about it, how many different alignments did we see?
Oh, yeah.
How many is Michigan going to see if they try to go bully ball? Mm-hmm. Texas is going to just – I don't think they're going to attack them just one way. Texas attacking the Michigan run game. Hey, CJ, you said you did watch a little bit of the Fresno State-Michigan game and or track some stats. I heard Michigan had problems running the ball. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it absolutely was. I'm trying to pull up some numbers here, but that first half, I believe, their cover boy Donovan Edwards, right, on the cover of the video game, about 7 rushes for 7 yards on 7 attempts. It wasn't pretty for him. They did not have that success on the running game that you would expect the Michigan team to have. Davis Warren was sacked. He had 7 pressures allowed on him. That offensive line, it's going to take time for them to gel and get that right, which bodes well for that Texas defensive line getting to play them this early in the year. The other thing I wanted to mention about that offense is if you take away Colston Loveland in that offense, they had nothing. They had no consistent piece. And I have the numbers here. Michigan quarterback Davis Warren against Fresno State. When targeting Colston Loveland, how about 8 of 9 for 87 yards? It's pretty good. It's consistent.
That's John Mackey award-winning numbers for a tight end, by the way.
That's basically 10 yards per attempt with a touchdown. That's great. Aside from that, how about 7 of 16? That's 43%, 31 yards. That's 1.94 yards per attempt and an interception. Where are their wide receivers? Where are their separators? Guys that can create with the ball after the catch. They sure didn't see it displayed against Fresno State, which you thought maybe they would have. Maybe you'd see Donovan Edwards running free. Maybe you see more of that running game kind of power ground. No, the only consistent piece that we saw last night for Michigan offensively was Colston Loveland. So you know what Texas is going to do right now. And I actually talked to Michael Taff about this after the game. I said, hey, I know that game's coming up in about 30 minutes. Y'all are done. You all are showered. You're talking to us right now. You're ready to go home. He goes, yeah, well, we're going to watch this game. We're going to go prepare for Michigan. I said, hey, it sounds like it's not going to be Alex Orji at quarterback. Does that make a difference in how you guys kind of game plan this? Well, we're certainly going to have game plan for both, because you can't go into one game like this where there's 2 quarterbacks kind of even out, each having different game plans and not be prepared. He said, we're going to game plan for both. We're going to be prepared for both. And we're going to go watch that game and see what kind of tendencies they got, what kind of schemes, what kind of splits, whatever, everything that goes into being a defensive back, preparing for a game is. But that Michigan offense needs some explosivity, and it would not surprise me at all if they threw in Alex Orji just to kind of create that more dynamic approach at the quarterback position, because Davis Warren, again, didn't really showcase a whole lot. I'll say that. I know it was vanilla, but it was a boring vanilla.
No. The only way you got him in there is so you basically don't want to beat yourself. And Texas can beat Michigan. They can go up there and just straight up beat them. I think Texas is that good. If Michigan doesn't create, like you said, some type of explosive dynamic on offense, and they're going to be in trouble. I wouldn't doubt, and this is kind of random, if Michigan just goes with Orji sometimes and runs the straight up option. Just goes. Yeah. Remember, Kansas did that against Texas and had some success last year versus them, and it's something teams don't practice against. And Michigan can kind of do that, and it can with Orji, because he can't throw the football really well, but he can run it. And see if Texas can just adjust to that. I don't think they're going to be able to just throw the ball against Texas. That's going to be tough.
Hey, all right. One last thing I wanted to bring up real quick, Rod. We talk about Texas not maybe showcasing a lot of Cyrus Bolden. We didn't really see a whole lot of Amari Niblack either. And I wanted to bring up this question from Tommy. Do y'all think he was hiding Amari Niblack, right? You know, you'd like Texas to utilize their tight ends. They have 3 pretty good ones, right? We saw Gunnar Helm get loose. There were some design targets for Juan Davis. You didn't see a whole lot of Amari Niblack. Is that a hiding of him? Is it that more just kind of let the flow of the game come, and if he's there, it's there? Don't force it, obviously, but what do y'all think about the overall outlook of Amari Niblack long-term? Bobby, I'll toss that to you.
So I think he is your vertical threat. But I also think that Juan Davis is the best blocker of that group, even though he's the smallest tight end. Like I think Gunnar Helm is a capable blocker, particularly in pass pro. He's not necessarily great on in line, against the defensive end. In fact, Gunnar got blown up on it was 2nd and 1, and they ran a little bit of a sweep to the left, and Gunnar got blown up, and Hayden Connor and Jake Majors tripped over him on the way over there. It ended up being 3rd and 5 because of it. And I thought Juan Davis probably did the best job. So what do I think of Amari Niblack? I think that they're going to try to flex him out more than maybe they do with Gunnar. Gunnar, I thought Gunnar had a really good game. So it's going to be hard for him to be his role being taken over. But I do think Texas could use him or use Niblack in more pass-heavy sets, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Just more flexes, that sort of stuff. I like people saying that Texas doesn't use the tight end enough. 4 catches for 50, 55, 60 yards. That's pretty good work, right?
Yeah.
Is that just my opinion? I know we're talking about Niblack in particular, but that's not bad work for a tight end.
They did remember
in the aggregate.
If I'm not mistaken, the Quinn Ewers interception was Niblack flexed out opposite trips. It was opposite. If I'm not mistaken, it was a 3-by-1, and he was flexed out. So to your point, Bobby, that was a 3rd and long. I think they were trying to find a matchup advantage over there. And then Quinn ended up having the pass deflected through the interception. Bond was open, by the way, on that one. So yeah, he was number 3 on the corner route. He was open. I don't know why Quinn didn't throw it. Quinn, he just kind of waited. And I think he may have been trying to look for Niblack and then ultimately ended up trying to throw it away. But he waited a little too long. Bond cleared. Should have taken that one. All right, let's give you a message from our sponsor one more time before we end our live stream tonight. Thank you to our good friends over at RogueShop.com, our newest sponsor. Really grateful for their support. Rogue Shop is bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. Make sure you use the promo code ONTexas for a special discount. The Rogue Shop has it all, folks, from oils and creams to flour, gummies, and vitamins. Again, that's RogueShop.com. They ship nationwide. Use the code ONTexas for a special discount today. Thank you very much to Rogue Shop for sponsoring our Sunday night live stream. All right, we got a super chat here from UT Boy. Oh, this is for you, Bobby. Bobby, you're embarrassing yourself, says UT Boy. Bond dropped more balls than anyone. Silas didn't do poop emoji. Bolden is not faster than John Tay. Check the times. All caps. I'll bet you $1,000 cash. John Tay is faster, way better. Hook him. Thank you, UT Boy, for the super chat. Appreciate that. Yes, John Tay, he did have the longest catch of the evening. and did lead them in yards per reception. So he did his part. What are your thoughts? Bobby, it's on you. You've been challenged by UT boy.
In a 60-yard or 60-meter sprint, Silas Bolden has better times than Jonte has put up. I'll just start with that. I'm just trying to tell you what I heard behind the scenes, so I'm relaying what I've heard, not what I know. Right? I don't know these things for a fact. I'm being told this stuff. Silas Bolden, I was told, had the best camp of any receiver. That includes Ryan Wingo, Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, etc. DeAndre Moore, all of them. So I'm not picking on Jonte. I'm just telling you what I was told overall. He's obviously returning punts for a reason too. Is Silas Bolden? He's a good player, and it doesn't have to be one or the other, guys. Like this is one of the things that kills me. Just because you like one player doesn't mean you dislike another. You can like two players. Yes, you can like Quentin Jammer and Rod Babers.
Unless you're married, you can't.
I'm just putting that out there, right? Right, Rod?
My wife tells me now that I'm married, I cannot love two women at the same time. I can't. Not in that way, not in that romantic way. So yes, usually you're right, Bobby, but in some things, I can't do it. But no, you're right about that. I'm with you. I think I've heard that too. Listen, I went to practice. I told you guys on here, and Silas Bolden made the wild plays at practice when I went out there and watched him. He was making a lot of those plays. It does make you wonder, maybe Sark has got something up his sleeve for the Michigan game. They didn't reveal everything. I can't wait to see what they reveal versus Michigan. All right. Thank you guys for all of your participation tonight. Really appreciate y'all. It was great. For all the super chats, really appreciate you. UT Boy and WTP Sports Dude and Pooh and Rudy and Ted, Reckless Trey, Justin, as well, Ryan, Football Junkie. Thank you as well. All the super chats. Really appreciate your you guys' support. Also, thank you, Michael. Very kind of you, man. Thank you for that. Also, I want to thank our sponsors, RogueShop.com and South Point Dodge. Thank Matthew behind the scenes because Matthew is the real MVP. This thing could not happen without him. CJ, you're the man, brother. Get some rest. I know you're probably trying to go out tonight. Go to sleep. Bobby, thank you, brother. We appreciate everything you do, man. You are the mastermind behind this thing. All right, guys. Until next time. Remember, tomorrow, Coffee and Football, early in the morning. Don't forget about it. 8 a.m., baby. Coffee and Football will be there for you. And we do have the winning drive tomorrow starting around 3 o'clock. Also, we're going to have Stevie Lee, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee is going to join us around 3:30. You don't want to miss that. All right, so for my man CJ, for Bobby Burton, for Matthew behind the scenes, for the On Texas Football family, for RogueShop.com and our friends at South Point Dodge. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em, guys.